Robert Plank Show, episode 239. Escape the rat race. Learn, take action, achieve success, and scale up with Mark Walker. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the program. We're joined today by Mark Walker, and Mark is the founder of Luxmana Investments, which focuses on residential and multifamily investments. And Mark was able to go from being a part-time investor with a full-time job in high tech into a thriving full-time real estate investor. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Robert.
I am excited that you are here. So yeah, based on your bio, I guess you do like real estate and investing. So, having said that, could you sort of maybe elaborate a little bit more about yourself and tell us, most importantly, what makes you stand out compared to everyone else?
Sure. Well, I'm just kind of an everyday Joe. I was employed in the corporate world for almost 14 years. I worked for a high-tech company. And I was in senior leadership, so I had my fair share of hours, that I worked. And I always aspired to escape the rat race. And in order to do that, I knew that I was going to need to create passive income, mailbox money. And so, I dove into real estate, and that's where I got my passive income. I do definitely consider myself an entrepreneur. But I chose real estate because of the tax benefits that come with owning real estate. And boy, I don't know. I just think I'm one of these guys that just believes you should never stop learning. Because whether it be real estate or something else that you aspire to do, to create passive income. It's learning that leads to action, and it's the action that actually leads to success. So, I'm a firm believer, and I think it's one of the things that makes me unique is that, I'm never done learning. I'm constantly focused on learning more, figuring out, what's working, what's not working, what can improve, stuff like that.
Awesome, that entrepreneurial spirit, and I can completely relate to that because like we all have our own ups and downs in our business, and when there are times when I feel like maybe even I'm feeling like the business isn't growing as much as it could be or as fast as it should, or if I feel overworked or lost or whatever, anytime I just go back and kind of have that self-awareness or look back at what I was doing, or many times I'll just kind of read whatever book or whatever audio book, and it doesn't even matter so much what it is exactly as I'm sort of opening myself up to whatever information. And even if I'm checking out an old book or something that's maybe not even related, just to kind of make those connections there. And so sort of along those lines, I'm really curious about what those early days were like for you. So could you kind of tell us, so you said that you're in the corporate world and high tech and working a bunch of hours a week, and you said, okay, so I've got to get into this real estate thing, get this passive income mailbox money. And so you learned and you took action. So what did you learn around that time, and what sort of action you take around that time?
Well, yeah, it probably stems back to about 2003. I read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, as I know a lot of real estate investors that started and were inspired by reading that book. That's a book that is largely slanted towards real estate. So I'll admit that's what turned me on to real estate. But, Robert Kiyosaki does really bring out the entrepreneur in you. And so, that inspired me to buy my very first duplex in 2004. And what was really cool about that deal was it gave me a 36.5% cash on cash return in the first year. So, talk about blowing your first deal out of the water. It really got me excited when I started seeing those types of returns. And so I actually owned that property for about a year or two. And I had the full intent of selling that property and doing something called a 1031 exchange. It's where you can defer the taxes by just buying up another like asset. But I ended up not doing that and sitting the next few years out. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise because we all know what happened in like the 2008, 2009 timeframe. Real estate crashed. And so it was fortunate that I wasn't in anything at that time. But I did start re-engaging, networking with people, and wanting to do something again in the 2010 timeframe. I met a general contractor, and we decided to partner together. We scraped a couple single family homes in a real trendy part of Denver, Colorado. And in place of those single family homes, we raised up a 3-story duplex on each lot. And then we sold each side off. So I did a little bit of development. But then it was about a year into that. So now I'm at 2011 that I started wanting to build that passive income with the intent of getting out of the rat race. And so that's when I started buying rental properties. And fast forward then to January of 2015, that's when I had enough passive income to quit my corporate job. Now, let me be really open and honest with everybody. Okay. I mentioned I worked in high tech, I was in senior leadership. I had very good W 2 income. I did not replace my W-2 income when I had decided to quit my corporate job. Instead, the way I approached it, Robert, is I asked myself very early on, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? And then I essentially, figured out what that dollar amount was. And I went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to make 2x that in passive income. Once I have 2x passive income to support that lifestyle, then I'll go ahead and make the jump. And that's what I did.
Awesome. So, I mean, there's a lot of really cool like takeaways and things to think about there. And so, having you explain that whole kind of story, I mean, are you happy with the timeline of that? Are you happy with the way that played out? Do you wish that you had quit sooner, or do you think that there are things that you could have done to accelerate things, or do you think that the way it happened was the way it was supposed to be?
That is a great question, Robert, because, I think about that sometimes, that maybe I would have liked to have left earlier, or maybe I even would have wanted to go longer. You know, um, I will say that after I left my corporate job, I went on less than a year later and bought a 64 unit apartment complex. So I continued to scale up and even grow my business even more after gave up that W-2 income. So, and I don't think I could have done that if I had not walked away from my corporate job. Now, on the flip side of that, um, there was a part of me that was maybe wanting to go another couple of years. I just kept saying to myself, well, I'll just do this for another couple of years and then I'll quit my corporate job. And, the reason for that was because I was addicted to the paycheck. And, I think that's something that a lot of people, if you haven't done this, if you haven't jumped out of the rat race and gone off to do your own thing, I think a lot of people you're gonna struggle with this because for the 14 years prior to jumping out and being an entrepreneur, my brain and my mind had been being trained that every 2 weeks more money was going to magically appear in my bank account. And even after making the jump, as prepared as I felt like I was, I I needed about 6 to 12 months after leaving the rat race to really get used to that concept. I had plenty of income. I had plenty of passive income. I had this well planned out, but I was addicted. I was addicted to that paycheck. That took some getting used to.
And I can relate to that. And it's sort of one of those things where like, well, like when you had your first job or your first couple of jobs, maybe there wasn't a lot of money coming in, you found a way to spend it, and you thought, oh, if only I had more money. Get a higher paying job, you find a way to spend that money as well. And I can completely relate to sort of always thinking like, oh, well, if I just had more money coming in, then these other problems would be solved. And the other thing that that I see some people kind of deal with, or that I myself struggled with in when it came time for me to quit that job, is a lot of people sort of I mean, I guess it's normal to be a little shy about leaving, and then there's that whole situation of, well, you have this day job income, that W-2 income built up, and then your own entrepreneurial income. And you mentioned that you waited until you had 2 times the passive income, but I know a heck of a lot of people who they'll say like, okay, well, I'm just gonna wait until my entrepreneur venture matches the job, and then once it does, they say, oh shit, well, now that I've now that I'm quitting, I have to take a 50% pay cut because, well, now I got used to these different, levels of income coming in. I can completely relate to that. And so, when it came time for you to make that decision and you said, okay, well, there's like the dollar amount is a factor, and then like that lifestyle amount is a factor. Do you have any sort of way of calculating that, or was it just like a gut feeling in that situation?
Well, I'll even tie it to the fact there's things you can even start doing today if you aspire to take a similar route, right? I mean, I asked myself, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live? And I started living it, right away, even when I made, a very high amount of W-2 income, right? You just said something that really resonated with me, right? The more money you make, you find a way to spend it, right? But this is a discipline, that if you want to escape the rat race, you really just have to decide, what kind of lifestyle do I want to live, and start living it now. Don't wait until you quit your job to start living that lifestyle. When I had that large W-2 income plus the income I was getting off of my real estate, heck, I could have afforded a much more attractive lifestyle, but I had the discipline to know this is the lifestyle I want to live, and I was already living it, so I knew exactly how much it costs to maintain. And then I just went off and made sure I had 2x the passive income after that to do it.
And that makes a lot of sense to me as far as like, I think that a lot of people maybe are afraid of either afraid of quitting, or maybe what they have in their head of like an ideal lifestyle, maybe they haven't even really gone for it in any sort of way, and maybe it's just like this perfect utopia in their head. So I like how you said that, where maybe start trying that lifestyle, and if you want to live in a certain way, or own a certain thing, or vacation in a certain area. I mean, why does it have to be like just a one or the other? Why does it have to be you flip a switch? And it also sounds like, as far as you building up this new business. I mean, it's not like you just one day said, okay, I'm gonna quit the high tech job and transition in. You were able to sort of do both at the same time. And so, I mean, do you have any tips for that, just as far as the like the time management aspect, or how do I basically have these two jobs without the rest of my life suffering? Any thoughts on that?
Boy, you know what? I guess that's something I never really put a whole lot of thought into as I was doing it, but I do firmly believe, we all make time for the things that are important to us. We make time for the things we want to make time for, and it was obviously, escaping the rat race was something that was really important to me. And I really just set my mind to that every day I was going to do something towards my goal. In fact, there was something that I had hanging on my mirror. It was the in my bathroom, so it was one of the first things I saw every morning when I woke up. It was called 10 things I'm going to do to escape the rat race. And it just, I'd look at it every single morning, and I'd be thinking about that. What are the things that I can do today that were in support of that goal? As far as the time commitment and everything like that goes, I never really said to myself, I'm going to set aside this many hours per day, or whatever, or my evenings or weekends. It was just something I was so passionate about, that I loved so much that I always just made time for it.
So it was enough of a priority where the time commitment part of it sort of worked itself out. And you mentioned, or did you hear you correctly? In before we started up this episode, you said that sign of the 10 things you're going to do, is that a thing that you're giving away and people can go grab as listeners of the show?
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm going to do after the show is I'm going to make it available on my website. Anybody that wants to go out and grab it, it's going to be at luxmana.com/Robert Plank. And it's the 10 things I'm going to do today to escape the rat race. And it really hits things like, things about how success is just as much about your character as it is about your effort, and things to be thinking about, about drawing on the inspiration of others and things like that. These are things that don't just apply to real estate. It could apply to anybody that aspires to to be an entrepreneur and leave your job and focus on the things that you're passionate about. So again, I'm going to make that available at luxmana.com/Robert Plank.
Awesome. And then, so out of those 10 things, like you listed a couple of examples, but is there one that's like your ultimate favorite?
Um, yeah, I think to me it's the some of the procrastination stuff. Procrastination really is a self-inflicted stress that we all have complete control over. And so that's something that even to this day, Robert, I struggle with that, that is procrastination, and it's completely self-inflicted, we need to choose every day what we're going to do and what we're going to accomplish. And so, looking at this was definitely one of my, things that really stuck out to me. I don't know if I'd call it my favorite, but, it was always kicking me in the butt, reminding me that I needed to, take action. So
Like it might not necessarily be your favorite, but it sounds like it's the most important, the most relevant.
definitely.
And I mean, and this is the kind of thing where like I'm here picking up on a lot of that in our conversation that a lot of this sort of self-help, self-care stuff. Like if I go long periods of time without going back to that well, without using it even like a week or two, then my I don't know what you'd call it, my productivity, my performance definitely suffers until I sort of always have this kind of constant stream of just some kind of I don't know some sort of a pick me up. And I've noticed that with a lot of other entrepreneurs, like if they kind of cross their fingers and don't have much of a plan or don't make use of some of these tools, then it's kind of hit or miss as far as like their burnout or their amount of income. But if they kind of always have these tools at their disposal, even if they've sort of heard these things or these mantras or these whatever it is, and even though it might be kind of cheesy, it seems to me that these entrepreneurs who make use of these kind of tools, even as something as simple as that sign with the 10 things, it's the people that use the tools seem to do a heck of a lot better than the ones that don't.
Yeah, I completely agree. And another thing too that anybody can do, is you can go off and tell your friends and family what your goals are and what you're off to do and ask them to hold you accountable. And if holding you accountable is just simple as asking you how things are going or what you did this week or this last month in support of your goal. I mean, just think of the positive peer pressure of that, and that's just something that we can all do, recruit our friends and family to help hold us accountable.
Pretty simple stuff. And so I want to make sure that we talk about what it is that you're doing lately, because we said that it sounds like you keep on scaling and you keep on getting bigger and better with especially that 64 unit apartment complex. So I mean, what are you up to these days? What's happening recently with you?
Yeah, so as mentioned, December of 2015, I bought a 64 unit apartment complex, and I spent, the first half of 2016, maybe a little more than that, renovating that property. My goal was to increase the rents, increase the income. There was also some things I did too to decrease some of the expenses, to really maximize the profitability of that property. I'm happy to say that that property's stabilized now. And so now I'm at a point where I want to find my next deal. It's a crazy real estate market right now. So, I do, very carefully analyze every single deal that I look at. And it's more difficult today to find something given that the market's so much hotter right now. It's definitely a seller's market. But, back to that procrastination thing, that's something I'm constantly reminding myself of. It's a self-inflicted stress, right? So I will find my next deal here in the first half of 2017. And as I mentioned, I just want to keep scaling up. So this last deal was 64 units. At the time, it felt really big, but in all reality, it's pretty small in the grand scheme of things, right? When it comes to multifamily investing. So, I'd love to do something bigger, going forward. I just need to find that right deal.
Just not need to find the right thing at the right time, and it'll all work out. And so you have this Luxmana company, and I'm looking at the website, and it looks like what you're asking for there is people can send leads to you or people can invest to you and things like that. So I'm really curious about number one, like what can you provide for listeners of the show, and then number two, as you know, as the show itself, what do people need to know, and how can I help you in sending people to your website? What sort of people should be heading towards your website right now?
Well, hey, anyone that's interested in real estate investing should definitely head there. I do have a blog, and I cover a lot of common topics, things that I learned along my journey. Everything from how to pick a property manager to investing in real estate that's out of state, from where you live. Uh, how you can get started in multifamily if that's what you aspire to do. There's lots of content there that I offer up completely and totally free. So you can definitely check that out. There's also lots of interviews that I've done, where I talk about more in depth about my journey. If it's something that you aspire to do, you could listen in on some of those. And at the same time too, while you're there, definitely go to / Robert Plank and download that paper, 10 Things I'm Going to Do Today to Escape the Rat Race. And like I said, even if you're not interested in real estate, if it's something else for you, if you have a desire or a dream to start some other business, I definitely encourage you to print this off, hang it on your mirror, and use it every single day to encourage you and remind you of the things that you need to be doing toward your goal to escape the rat race.
Awesome. I love it. And it's like the more and more that I like, do different things online, do different things with my own businesses, it's just like the more that I'm reminded that a ton of it is in that mindset thing. If you have a handle, or at least some of those tools, as far as keeping the procrastination in check, or finding ways to get excited, or finding ways to get focused, then it sounds like a lot of the action is pretty easy, as long as that sort of foundation is in place. So I want to make sure that everyone goes right now to luxmana.com. That's luxmana.com, and then luxmana.com / Robert Plank. So luxmana.com/ROBERTPLANK. So I also want to thank you so much, Mr. Mark, for stopping by the show. Even though we don't happen to be a real estate podcast, there's still all kinds of takeaways as far as like your thought process, your mindset, your course correction, the way that you sort of plan stuff, take some action, know you're on the right track. So I really appreciate getting a peek into your mind a little bit, and sort of seeing where you were at and then how far you've come. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks for being so generous with your knowledge and your insights and stuff.
Well, thank you, Robert. It was really fun, catching up with you, and appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, it's Robert Plank. Thanks for tuning in and listening to what Mark Walker had to say. Now it's time for you to go to robertplank.com/239. That's ROBERTPLANK / number 2, number 3, number 9 to see what Mark Walker is all about and get all the links to his websites and resources.